Good evening. Good evening, everyone. And for the first time this year, first time in 2024, welcome to Phil's Corner Live. It's been ages. It's been over a month, hasn't it? Since we've streamed. I can't even remember the last time it was. It's been a long time, so might be a bit rusty. On that note, and I've been saying this for a while, I feel like I've not quite nailed the volume levels. So hopefully my voice is loud enough. Hopefully the music's not too loud. I think it's all good. But if there's any problems, if you can't hear me or anything like that, do shout. And I've just realised I need to get the comments on this side. Let me do that quickly. There we go. Let's pop that out. Good stuff. And Retro Ball, Happy New Year. Cheers from Norway. Thank you, Retro Ball. Happy New Year to you too. And thank you for that. Thank you for tuning in from Norway. Guys, how was your Christmas and New Year's? Obviously, we're 16 days into January now. So it might seem like a long time ago, but I hope you guys had a good break. If you were able to have a break, and lots to catch up on. Obviously, we'll be talking a lot about football shirts as we always do, but we'll do a bit of a retrospective on last year and talk about next year, or this year I should say. There's already been some good shirts, so we've got lots to talk about, but I hope you're well. And before we start, it'd be good just to catch up. How are things? Matthew says, hi, Happy New Year, mate. Great to have the live streams back, and here's another year. Fantastic football shirts. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you for those kind words. I'm hoping this year I'll be a bit more consistent. Last year was a bit difficult. For different reasons, good and bad really, wasn't as consistent as I wanted to be, but I'm hoping with weekly streams like this on a Tuesday, more consistent hopefully than it was last year, and main Phil's Corner episodes, aiming for weekly. It might be once every 2 weeks, but certainly aiming for much more this year, hoping to kind of get back into a rhythm, get the channel a bit more active. But I've really felt your guys' support, and thank you for those who've asked after the channel and kind of asking when I'll be back and that sort of thing. It really is appreciated. I've just realised I need to, 1 second. Let's get that going there. I need to do 1 second, just make sure my chat window is looking good. If we do that, yeah, let's zoom in because my eyes aren't that good. There we go. Yeah, so I mean, in many ways, you guys know the drill, I'm sure. But as I say, between these streams, which will be oscillating, variating between eBay and the Hot Wall. Today we'll be focusing on the Hot Wall, but yeah, there'll be some fun stuff both on the live streams and the pre-recorded videos. The next main Phil's Corner episode, as a little teaser, it's going to be me going through my non-football collection. So I've slowly accumulated a bunch of NFL and NHL jerseys, and I thought it would be fun to show you guys those jerseys, and then talk a bit about collecting jerseys, kits from other sports. And of course, I'd love to hear off the back of that if you guys collect NFL, MLB, NBA, whatever it is you guys might collect, because I think it's quite funny and it's interesting to see those different differences, quirks that you might have with particular sports. I'm a big particularly NFL fan. I've watched NFL for a long time. I probably watch it more than I do football in some ways. I think partly because my job is in football, as in soccer. I keep up to date, obviously, with that. But a lot of it, I think there's something about NFL which I do gravitate towards, and I've enjoyed a lot. And it's got even worse recently because I've been playing fantasy football with some friends and getting into that, and I've got a dynasty. What have I stumbled into? Well, if you subscribe, you will get a nice dose of football shirt related content throughout the year. That's what I can
promise to deliver you. Of course, you can check out the videos that are already on the channel. We've done all sorts of stuff. We've done unboxings. Even did a documentary style video last year. But essentially, I'm one of a bunch of people who absolutely loves football shirts, and so much so that it is my job. So this channel is just a small corner of what I do, I guess. Corner indeed. But yeah, so if you're a subscriber, it would be that's the best way. You can figure out what I do by being a subscriber. But that'll be much appreciated if you do that. And of course, if you enjoy today's stream, drop a like as well on the video. That really helps more people see this, and you can just obviously do that at no cost or anything like that. Leaving a comment is always great. I'd really like to engage with chat, so if you have a question, a comment as we're going through, as I'm ranking some shirts, if you disagree or you agree, stick it in the chat. Hopefully it will update, and you'll see it on the side of your screen there. And finally, final bit of notice, I have a Patreon, and my Patreon is basically a space where I'm going even further, giving more in terms of content. So I'll be sharing a lot, particularly this year, hopefully, with my ongoing ambition to become a shirt designer. So for example, to give you a taste of one thing we're doing with the Patreon in the next few months, I've got a new shirt design coming up, and I'm basically getting my patrons involved in that, getting the patrons to help me with the design. I'm going to be kind of basically working with the patrons. So if you want a bit of a window into that world, that's one of the things you could get. There's basically a private Slack group where that's happening, and if you support on Patreon, you get a shirt as part of your support. The current shirt is a really exciting one. It is my Icarus Cup shirt. Anyway, I won't do any more notices. Let's have a look. Before we rank some new shirts, I wanted to take a look at the Hot Wall as we ended it last year. So if I just bring it up for us, you can see here that this is what we call the Hot Wall. This is our giant tier list, and the essence of this, the very simple format of this is that I've ranked a bunch of shirts from last year. I intended to rank every shirt. For various reasons we didn't get to that. Hopefully we'll do more this year. Obviously we did still rank a bunch of them, but this is releases from the calendar year of 2023. My favourite shirts, the hottest shirts in this elusive volcano tier. Now, not many shirts made it to this tier, and actually I should have brought 2022's option as well. That's fine, I can maybe do that later. But you can see here, only a selection, what's that, like a dozen or so shirts in that tier, and I really was quite picky about what shirts I let into the tier. Incidentally, you can see my Icarus Cup shirt there, a bit of nepotism, ranking my own shirt in that one. But yeah, the cream of the crop, and there was a nice range. And I think what's cool, if we zoom in fact, let's kind of do a nice, there we go. Going through each of these shirts, we had a Universitario shirt from Marathon, a brand who I think I'd like to see a lot more of. Their work, particularly with Universitario, has been really cool, and that's a shirt I really liked. But Adidas had a great year. Their women's international kits were, for me, some of the standout kits of the year. We could see Germany away, Argentina away, Belgium away. So a good year for Adidas. The Bruce Lee Seattle shirt as well, almost making it in, as and the Austin shirt. So a couple of MLS kits sneaking. So Adidas had some real strong offerings. Another big story was Napoli. Their Halloween shirt was one I really liked, and for all the kind of frustrations around Armani and the 50 shirts a season situation they have at the moment, give or take, I really like the Halloween shirt. But other favourites, I mean, the Young Boys shirt had some really nice applications. That was Nike at their best. I really liked, was this the Hokkaido shirt? I forget the team now. That's quite bad of me. Was it Consadole, Sapporo, Hokkaido? I forget their name. Apologies to any fans, but Mizuno anyway doing some great work. Umbro in Brazil. cliche of the channel, but their work for Santos. You can see also Sveigen Kanazawa. This is testing my Japanese club team knowledge, but that was one of my favourites from Hummel. AC Milan's fourth shirt, so this is actually from last season now, isn't it? But also Köln's Carnival shirt, so a selection of kits there which made it. Shouldn't forget New Zealand as well. But that was the Volcano tier, but there was plenty of others, and of course if we scroll back through, I won't go through individual shirts, but to give you a selection, a sample, you can see more Adidas there, and some really nice offerings from the likes of Maber with Oakham Roots. Again, Adidas represented, but Hummel doing their bit. I mean, there's a bit of everything, of course, that I enjoyed, and New Balance as well. Not the best year for them, but I really liked. I forget which team it was now. Was it Sydney? I forget, or Brisbane? I forget which A-League team it was. That's bad, isn't it? But they're there, closely missing out on the Volcano tier. I was quite enjoying a bunch of white and off-white shirts, and you can see a bit of a cluster here. The likes of Hackney Wick. Some of these thumbnails don't really do the shirts justice necessarily, but both Hackney Wick shirts making it in there. You can see the likes of we haven't talked about Puma yet, but despite it not being my favourite year for Puma, I did enjoy a couple of offerings, particularly for their J-League teams, and certainly any shirt that falls into the Flames tier is still one I would quite like for the collection. So you can see a bunch, and it's fun actually just looking back, shirts that I completely forgot existed, to be honest. Lots of Real Sociedad, Platense in Argentina. I really do need to get a shirt from them. Georgie says, Happy New Year, Phil, and to you. Thank you very much. I hope you could do the Venezia kits for Kappa. Yeah, so just to kind of give you guys the plan. 1 second. Let's make sure we're working there. Yeah, that's good. Just to give you guys the plan. We're going to run it back, and in a minute I'll literally duplicate the wall, maybe change a colour or two, but essentially we're going to start from everything released so far. According to Football Shirt Culture, this is the site I like to use for reference. These guys, they tend to get the majority of kits, not everything, but certainly most of the major releases, and even some of the more niche shirts will make it onto here. So we're going to run it back, and I think hopefully this year, with a bit more consistency on the streams, we'll be able to get more shirts covered. It's funny, I think I did a bit better in 2022. I think 2023, again, we missed out on a bunch of releases. I went away for a few weeks, which didn't help in the middle of the summer. But yeah, there's already been some great stuff again in the J-League and elsewhere. There's some AFCON shirts, so there's a lot we can cover, and we'll get onto that very shortly. Matthew says, I picked up the Young Boy shirt. It's absolutely fantastic. Probably my best pickup for 2023. That's awesome, Matthew. I didn't see many people that actually got hold of that for themselves, but I really did like that. It was one of those where when I first saw that release, I thought, oh boy, it's another kind of vaguely black and gold kind of kit. But looking at some of the close-ups, it looked awesome, and I think again it was seeing like things like the old Nike logo with the word mark, and some of those kind of plastic details. Really good stuff. Quick word on our third tier, which is the Canal tier. Now, any previous viewers or long-time viewers of the Hot Wall will know that this is our busiest tier. This is kind of where the majority of shirts will land. But the thing is, I think anything, certainly in this kind of right section of the Canal tier, I'd still say there's some good stuff. I mean, I quite like Brazil women's away there. I believe that's what one that is. And you can see like France women's away. But there's a selection of like solid kits, and of course, a lot of these shirts have really kind of aged well. It's funny to say that after just, a year or less than a year for most of these kits to have been in the wild, but something like that Brisbane Roar shirt, I feel like that probably could have bumped into the Flame Steer. And you can see, again, some really nice shirts in here, which I might have marked down for very particular reasons, but, this is obviously just my opinion. Again, looking at this, some solid stuff, and even the lower part of the canal tier, these, we're starting to get a bit ropier here. But for example, it could be the collar that I particularly didn't like, or maybe it was a good pattern, but the sponsor really let it down. There's a few shirts like that here. But of course, as we then look to the bottom of the tier list, this is our unfortunate Ice Cube tier. Now, there's a few shockers. We've got fortunate. There we go. I thought I just crashed. Okay, we're back. Sorry. But there's also some kind of Adidas teamwear stuff. And I mean, I was a bit harsh. I forget even which team this was. I think it might have been a lower league US team. But you can see a number of kind of teamwear items. And teamwear that is kind of off the shelf templates from the big brands. They're not necessarily a bad thing. But there was a number which, were completely forgettable. But having said that, and there's some big teams in here. PSG, I really didn't like their home shirt, and a few others here who you may recognise. But all in all, I'd say there was some good stuff. And of course, we're now looking to 2024. So what I'll do is I'll quickly switch my camera back. Let me quickly rejig the hot wall. I'm just gonna get a clean hot wall ready for us. In the meantime, if you got any questions, guys, and this won't take long, but this is a good opportunity, stick it in the chat. Good to see a nice number of us here tonight, and I do want to say once again, thank you for the messages I've received asking when the stream's going to be back and things like that. It really does mean a lot. This channel, we're a small channel here, and it's not, we're not doing anything, like, we're not as regular as a lot of YouTube channels. I say we, it's just me, but in terms of what is happening here at the channel, but it honestly means so much. Every comment, every mention on social media goes a long way, and I'm how about, again, sorry, I'm talking to myself here, but that's good. Photoshop is doing its usual. Let's get that there, and we're going to run it back, guys, for 2024, the Hot Wall 2024. Oh, look at that lovely new blue background color. I'll save that. Here we go. Now, of course, as you can see on your screen, there we go. This is the same wall. I've changed the background color, and just so I can resize to the same sort of size, I've left in a shirt there and a brand name in there. I forgot to mention, actually, we could talk about it another time, but in terms of kind of this section of the hot wall, this is where we're ranking our brands. And my thinking is, this is something I did last year, but I wanted to basically have a way of kind of tracking my overall feelings around a particular brand. So every time a brand is on the wall, we'll stick their name up, or a shirt of theirs, sorry, goes on the wall, we'll stick their name up. And this is kind of roughly a kind of average of all their shirts in the list. Give or take, it's pretty rough. Mattis, what was your top shirt from 2023? So, and so broadly speaking, obviously I like to say that the shirts to the further right of a group are, better than the ones on the left. But don't take that as kind of complete like for like. I think in third place I would give I would actually give it to Napoli. I think that Halloween shirt, it was a surprise kind of a one for me, given how kind of largely lackluster the previous year was. Although funny enough, the Halloween shirt from 22-23 was probably from 21-22 we're talking, that was actually one of my preferred ones of their collection, but I really like that one this year, and I think that's definitely worthy of a podium finish. In second place, I probably would give it, and I need to buy it. I can't not know exactly what they're. I'm sure it was the Consadole. I forget their name now. Hokkaido Consadole Sapporo. There we go. I mean, I did say that in some combination, didn't I? But this shirt was my second favourite of the year, and to be honest, I do want to still find it. I don't know if it's possible that I missed the boat. This was second place for me. I really liked the styling of this one, the fact that it was almost entirely monochrome, save for the eyes on the back there. Even just the paneling from Mizuno, kind of nostalgic, but I like that you've got the stripes and the sleeves. It was just a wonderful kit. And we'll give first place to and again I forget their full name, so I'm going to make sure I say it right. It was the is it Kanazawa or Kanazawa? Oh, that's funny. Kanazawa. I can't even type. Yeah, it's Vigen, that's why. It's Vigen. Kanazawa third kit. This is my favourite of the year. Love the colours and pattern. And it's a Hummel shirt, so I'm a little bit biased there, but that I think would take my my first place prize. So there we go, top 3 shirts of the year. Sadly, none of them in my collection. I do have a few, like I've got, for example, the Seattle shirt I picked up recently. In fact, is that the only one? Well, obviously the Icos Cup one. Yeah, so actually I didn't tick off as many as I would have liked to from this list. But I'll be looking out for them throughout the year, and of course, I think when it comes to kind of adding shirts to the collection, if I added everything I liked, I definitely wouldn't be able to. That wouldn't be sustainable. But yeah, that's my top 3, Matthew. Guys, if you have any favourites, stick them in the chat. Your own top 3. Would love to hear. Right, give me 1 second. I'll just. There we go. Right, let's start, and obviously we will change this around, but let's kick things off with the first shirt released in 2024 according to Football Shirt Culture. We'll kick off with who's this? FBC Melgar, a team I've never heard of, although I have heard of Wallon. Their brand, a South American brand who have popped up a few times. Let's take a look. This is a Peruvian club. Again, I won't give you the details of who they are. Okay. So, at first I was somewhat unconvinced, but looking at some of these pictures, there's some things that I like. It's got the kind of, there's sort of Newell's Old Boys style, half and half. And long time viewers will know I'm not a big fan of 1-button collars, but if you've got at least 2 buttons, I much prefer that as a look. So, whilst it's not my favourite collar style, it's at least got 2 buttons. It's something kind of slightly old school and charming about a little patch stitched crest like this. It feels like a bit of a, it dates it somewhat. Some of the details, got some old crest. It's actually got some good things going for it. They've coloured the sponsors quite well. Honestly, this one, the more I look at it, I actually think this is a good start. I would definitely say this is a high candle tier. This is the kind of the range I'm thinking of. And I'm just gonna make sure. There we go. Let's make sure we get it in the right. Yeah, honestly, this one grew on me quite a lot compared to the very first impression, as I say. I've probably picked a terrible image to kind of cut out there, but let's just do that. Yeah, more than solid, I would say. I've just copied the folder. There we go. Yeah, honestly, again, Wallon, I don't know if that's how you say their name, but they're a brand who I don't recall who they worked with last year. It may have just been a couple of clubs, but certainly that is a good start to proceedings for them, and we'll stick them right up there. And of course, we will rename this and move them appropriately as well. So that's the first one on the board. We can get rid of the Charlie shirt there. And Georgie says, Euro 2024 leaks. Did you like the Adidas new template and the Condiro 2-in-1 reverse being part of a much more vibrant selection compared to Nike? So yeah, I think I will do a video on the leaks. I've been waiting for the right time to do that. I'm thinking I probably will do that as my next video. In fact, guys, just give me a second. I'm going to make a note of that on my I've just got my Trello board here. 1 second. I've switched cameras just so you can't see all my exciting behind the scenes of what I'm doing. But I think I will actually make a note to do a leaks video, because it's been on my mind. I think that is definitely something. We're coming to the point now where there's enough kind of pretty good leaks. So yeah, Georgie, I think I'll save some of my longer thoughts for that video. But I will say that I can understand people's frustrations, particularly around some of the collars that we're seeing from Nike. But but there's some interesting stuff, and I think broadly speaking, I think we've come a long way from 8 years ago, Euro 2016, and the kind of stuff we were getting then. I'm glad that there's a lot more to chew on now. Not necessarily good stuff, but there'll definitely be some talking points. That is for sure. I've got some top threes from Georgie and Matthew. So Georgie says top three. Milan 4th, lovely stuff. We've also got Denmark home in long sleeve and Gremio home, lovely stuff. Big fan of both Denmark and Gremio, so that's really cool, Georgie. And Matthew saying top three, Bologna home, Vasco da Gama, 3rd Young Boys anniversary. Again, very nice shirts. Bologna definitely a good shout. They did impress me as well with the work. And Daredevil, good to see you, Daredevil. Daredevil, it's good to see you back. Good to see you as well. Good to see a few familiar names, and of course, if you're lurking and you've not commented, thank you for watching nonetheless. Now, I did not know. I assume this is news, old boys. They've moved, or they've changed manufacturer, unless I'm completely forgetting who they were with before. Athletic International Fit, a wonderful sort of generic sounding brand name there. This is new. Yeah, this is the News Old Boys. So I just mentioned them, and here they are. We've got a home and away shirt to digest. So I have no recollection. Maybe this is even in house. I don't know. If we take a look at the shirts, we've got the home and away. Starting, of course, with the home. Now they've got a classic formula, so it's good to see that preserved. And if we take a look. I'm most interested in this pattern, if there is a pattern. You can see it's fairly subtle, but there is a kind of looks like within the fabric of the material there is some sort of it could be, I don't know if it's like embossing, or if it's more of a sort of like you get like a jacquard. That's the word I was thinking of. Took me a while to say that. But that's good. That's a small thing, but it does add interest to what would otherwise be quite a plain body in terms of style. And you can see that replicated in the away. Collar, 2 different styles on offer. The first one, or the home one I should say, a simple style. I actually do quite like the away. I think that's a little bit more interesting. And it does have the kind of double stripes, nicely aligned with the crest. So small things like that do add up. And indeed, when it comes to sponsors, appropriately coloured. I feel like a lot of clubs now, I mean, you know, it used to be, and it still is a bit of an issue in some leagues, in some countries, but most teams now tend to recolour sponsors, and that's great. I do like the look of this backnet detail. Simple, but nice to see it as an actual application. A bit of chunky plastic there rather than just sublimated. So there are some nice touches to this one, I have to say. The overall look is good. Quality wise, obviously it's impossible to tell on a screen, but you know, there's enough there to say that it doesn't look super cheap. Again, it's hard to rank that, but I'd say both of them pretty solid. I would take the away over the home, and I think the away is close to the Flames tier. I might, let's have a look. Let's check. Let's get it on the wall. So, do I prefer it to the Wallon shirt? I think I probably do. Just the away one, that is. I think I'm happy to sneak this in as our first Flames tier shirt. Sorry. Dodo says, do embossed patterns knit help with sweat and ventilation, or is it just for the look? I think. Well, I don't know the science behind it, but my understanding has always been that it's large. It's, you know, very marginal, if any. Well, I should pause and say, from my understanding, yes, broadly speaking, it does help, but again, for the average fan, you're not going to really notice much of a difference. Having said that, you know, when you wear kind of old shirts or shirts which you know, from the kind of anything kind of pre 2000 really, yep, you can often notice a difference in terms of, you know, how heavy the shirt is and how well it performs or feels, I should say, under bad conditions in the rain, etc. So yeah, I'm not the person to ask. Really, I think if you spoke to people who actually know, they'd probably tell you there is a big difference. But I certainly, from a collecting point of view, I do prefer to have, again, a jacquard or embossed pattern. Particularly embossed patterns, I think, are really quite nice. And I think, you know, brands like Mizuno's, which you mentioned before, they really have kind of majored on that. So much so that I would say they've put a lot of some of the even bigger brands to shame. But here we go. I think the home, close behind in the Canon tier, and that will I forget the name of the brand now. AFIT, Athletic International Fit. Not a great name. We'll call them AFIT. Dedo says, I'm a big fan. Yeah, I think broadly speaking, I don't hate that at all from them. And of course, again, that's roughly in between, isn't it? Close enough. In fact, I might just, let's start zooming to go on. It's a small thing, but just reduce the thickness of that. There we go. That's a bit better. Yeah, not a bad start. And News Old Boys, great storied club out of Argentina. Could be a fun one for the collection. Now, in order to kind of keep the list as tight as possible, we're not going to include esports shirts, although, you know, there are some interesting ones, and in many ways, I'm not even sure about that. I might change my opinion. I'll sleep on that one. But one thing we've done in the past is not include esports shirts, not include goalkeeper shirts, and again, that's simply because there are literally hundreds and hundreds of shirts. It's good to keep a few rules in, but basically anything that's going to be worn on pitch by an outfield player, broadly speaking. But we come to Mauritania. Is that how you say that? I honestly don't know how you say their name. But anyway, an international kit now, and this is another. I mean, this is testing our brand knowledge. AB Sports, certainly not one I recognise off the rip, but this is we've got the home and away kits, and it looks like they are competing at AFCON. It shows my knowledge. Apologies. Again, is it Mauritania? Anyway, I can't think how you pronounce the name. We won't get bogged down by that. That's nothing new. Again, if you've watched this channel before, you know I don't always pronounce team names that well. What have we got here? I mean, the first thing to notice is those shiny gold numbers. Now, my general thinking with gold details is that it can certainly look good on a design, but it's kind of a little. I often would rather details not be that kind of shiny and gold, especially if it's not, necessarily indicative of any success particularly. So this is a personal bugbear, don't get me wrong, but it's not necessarily a positive here. And I would say the clash with the manufacturer logo also stands out. I mean, it does draw your attention, and in some ways, I guess you could say that's it's a fun detail, but I'm not sure it sits that well. Basically, when I look at it on the base there, I don't hate the base color, but with the gold, not really sure. Obviously, you've got this detail as well behind the crest, the yellow. Not a big fan of that. It's it's something, but I think having it there, I would probably want it to continue and maybe even have a few more elements. Not necessarily that it would have to be striped, but not really feeling this one. And I would actually say this is a low candle tier offering for me. This is definitely the kind of thing where, I think they've overcooked it with the numbers, I would say. And it's a difficult thing to get right when you're working with quite a kind of a strong green color there, and the yellow. I don't think the gold was the best choice. I wonder if the numbers were like the manufacturer logo, if I'd like it more potentially, but we're going to stick them down there. And then their away shirt, let's have a look at this one. Now, I would actually say I prefer this. I'm still not really sure about this element. I don't know, is that a kind of rough country outline perhaps? I wonder if that's what they're going for. Has the look of a kind of Senegal kit, doesn't it? You can see the flag on the back. But certainly this one, I think, it's not exciting, but it does look a lot more cohesive than the previous one, I would argue. And I do like that we've got something in the body there. I can't tell exactly. It looks almost like a camo, but it's not, it's nothing in the top 2 tiers, and it's probably not much higher in the candle tier. But I would definitely take the away over the home. So that's not a particularly exciting home and away combo. But if you think differently, let me know in the chat. I'd be happy to be told that I'm wrong. We'll stick them. We'll stick the away. Let's stick it there. And the brand, I've already forgotten the brand name again. AB Sport. So a few newcomers, or at least brands I don't remember. I say newcomers. Perhaps they were in last year, but I don't recall. Certainly AFIT and AB Sport. I feel like AB Sport sounds like a brand that are around in the 90s, but I think I'm probably thinking of someone else. But they're on the board anyway. Let's continue. Next page. We might even be able to catch up tonight. I don't see why not, if I can actually get through at a good pace. Brock, good to see you, Brooks. Sorry I'm late. No, nothing to be sorry for, Brock. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you've been well. I have been well, thank you, mate. It's been good. I had a long time away. I was in Canada. I was up in the Isle of Mull in Scotland. So I've had plenty of time away, which has been good. But I'm also very glad to be back. Back working, back at it. And this is a good couple of kits. Now, Tunisia, a lot of buzz recently about their third kit. I wonder if that's on here. If it isn't, I should probably... Oh yeah, there we go. So the third kit is coming up possibly later tonight. But if we just look at their home and away, very interesting to note that Kappa have gone with iridescent brand marks and crests. Now, I'm kind of in two minds about that. I'm not sure exactly how I feel. It does feel somewhat like they're kind of, they're chasing the trend. We've seen this a lot across club kits, but not as much on the international scene. But I have to say, when I look at the overall presentation of the kit, I actually do quite like it. I like this kind of almost like pixelated arches. I don't know exactly what they're going for, or what it represents, I should say. The Amphitheatre of El Gem. So let's have a quick Google of that. I mean, yeah, there we go. Kind of notable, actually. Again, I don't know if they would have necessarily called it a pixelated style, but I do like that. I actually think they've that's a nice way of doing a relief pattern, a subliminal pattern. Not the most intricate, and it is plain on the back, which isn't uncommon for international shirts particularly, but as a home and away combo, that's pretty smart. I don't mind this collar. I mentioned that I don't like one button collars, but that's fine. It's a nice choice. I can see why they've gone for that, and it is certainly interesting to see those iridescent Kappa logos. But the overall look is pretty good. I quite like it as a combo. Now the third is even better, and we'll come on to the third later on, hopefully. But as two kits here, I think I would happily say these are on the kind of lower flames tier. In fact, I probably would put them in the flames tier. Only just. I'm not saying this is one of my favourite kits. Or well, we've only just started the year, but I don't think this will be in my top 50, even a top 100 necessarily of the year. But I think it's pretty good from Kappa. And certainly, again, the iridescent choice is a bit of a gamble. It could come across as tacky, and it's possible that if we start seeing a lot more brands do it over the coming months, it could get older as the year goes on. And we've certainly seen a lot of kits already kind of following the trend. But on the international scene, as I mentioned, it's not as common, or hasn't been as common. And I think, given the rest of the shirt design isn't too crazy, there's not too much else to kind of necessarily gravitate towards. I think this is not a bad choice, or not a bad place, I should say, to go with iridescent applications, just as another thing to kind of differentiate this kit from previous Tunisia kits. So that's Kappa, kicking off 2024, and of course that means we'll rank them or log their position, something around there, isn't it? This, as you can see, this is not a particularly I'm not doing this accurate to the millimeter, but it's just about there. Daredevil says, talking about Kappa, do you like their partnership with Venezia? Do you think their partnership with Venezia is a bit overhyped, or do you like the kits they produce? I think with Venezia, it's a funny one because obviously they were so popular. I think it was a bit of a kind of like what's the expression? I was going to say like a burning sun, but I don't know if that's exactly what I mean. I guess they burned brightly, and it's kind of fizzled out quite a bit, I would say. But I think it's almost swung too far the other way now, where people, I would say, are in many ways still kind of reeling from the success, or how can I put this? I think sometimes people immediately criticize or jump on them and say, oh, it's all hype. And I would actually say that if you look at the Kappa overall, they've done some really good things. And yes, they aren't the best kits in the world, and even the first collection, which was amazing, I think you could certainly argue it wasn't the best, or at least it was hyped. But I think almost now people are, dare I say it, they are they've gone too far the other way, or they're sleeping on the kits, if you want to put it another way. So I have actually quite enjoyed basically, in short, I think they've done a lot of good stuff, and I think certainly more good than bad. Right, there's a good question there, Dado, and to be honest, I think well, hopefully, Kappa's still with Venezia, aren't they? I think they're still with them next season. Will be a fun set of kits to review. Now, this is Nara Club, a Japanese J3 league side. We don't typically go or have many J3 shirts, but I really am intrigued by this one. Now, I'm just double checking what kits. We've got the home kit here in the navy, and there are okay, so there's a white away and 2 goalkeeper kits. Great, so we've got home and away. This is interesting. So we're working with the brand Squadra here. Another brand I don't recognise. We really are. This is the kind of niche brand episode, isn't it? A very interesting design, I must say. Now, classic Japanese scenario of the collarbone sponsors in the full colour, so it does clash quite significantly. And I'm not, as a colour scheme, this kind of navy and red, it's one of my least favourite overall kind of base colours. And the sponsor there, so the sponsors are kind of getting in the way, but I do quite like this kind of pattern here. I kind of like how it's only, it's well, you can see I don't know exactly what's represented here, but I do quite like the look of it. So I think in a different colour scheme and with recoloured sponsors, I think this one could actually be really, really good. As it is, it's not quite reaching the heights it could, but it does have a nice pattern in the body, and that's a very important thing, I think, for me when I'm considering shirts that I would rank in the higher tiers. This sort of stuff goes a long way, even though it's just sublimated. I do like that a lot. You can see in the other colorways. Now, I'm still, well, I do prefer it a lot, actually. You've still got the same issues with the sponsors, and to be honest, I don't think the green's particularly attractive. The maroon or the plum, whatever you call this one, that's a little bit stronger. But overall, I quite like this, and I actually think, despite my reservations around sponsor colour, and again, just not loving the colour scheme as a whole, just the team's colours basically, I actually do think I would rank this one just in the Flames tier, which I kind of surprised myself, but I do think there's some creative decision making. Just I wonder what the reasoning was for not having this gold or yellow element going across the whole of the chest. They've kind of only kept it on half, but I kind of like that, the bit of asymmetry, which you don't see all too often. Well, I say that. I say you don't see asymmetry too often. Seems to be a big theme of some of the leaked Nike kits, asymmetric collars. But we'll come on to that with the leaks video soon. So yeah, that's Squadra's effort for, I forget the team name now. Who was this? Who was this? Nara Club. Oh, sorry guys. Nara Club. That's the home shirt. In fact, I'll bump that down a little bit. But then we'll come on to the away, which is the white one. And I think, again, it's a low Flames tier. But I do think there's enough that I like about this one. It's not got a faffy collar. Sometimes shirts like this are let down by an overly intricate collar, but this one is completely fine. Unexciting, but it's not bad at all. So we'll stick that one just above in the Flames tier, and an intriguing effort. And again, this is a relatively small team in Japan, so I can't imagine these guys will be on many people's radars, but the kind of shirt which really does add a lot of character to a collection for some of these lower league teams who deserve some love sometimes. So that was it Squadra? Man, look at this, look at these brands: AB Sport, AI Fit, or iFit, Wallon, Squadra, and of course Kappa. A bit of everything as we kick off 2024. Guys, if you are tuning in or you're watching, you're lurking in the background, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave a like if you enjoy this. Finally, I've got a Patreon if you want to support me further. There's a bunch of benefits which you can check out in the link in the description of this video. Right, who's next? PS Casey Simahi. Now I have seen a bit of this shirt on social media. What a standout design. Wow. Talk about kind of going all in. Even the number, the the name and number there. Well, let's get the background here. So we're talking. Is this Indonesia? Yep, it's Indonesia. Yeah, PSKC. Couldn't tell you anything about them. Couldn't tell you anything about the brand. Kalma, another brand I've never heard of. But you can see here. Wow. I mean, some things I like. So obviously it's crazy. It's bold. But I do like, for example, the visible stitch in the top stitch in there. I don't mind that, and I do really like this collar. I think that's quite nice. A lot of collars, you see some really bad ones in the game, but that is one of the better collars I've seen. Now this kind of style of pattern, I'm not sure. I think I almost would want it to be more abstract, and by that I mean this kind of literal's not the word, but seeing this, I guess the illustration in quite a kind of rigid way. It's nice. You've got the sunset and the colours, but I don't know if it really translates as well as, something that's a little bit more. I'm trying to think of what the way I'm trying to put this now. I'm not sure this is the best direction to go there. Having said that, you've got quite an interesting crest there, which certainly matches the overall look of it. You can see the usual club crest colours there. The almost kind of almost like Hummel chevron style brand mark. Yeah, a little bit of kind of soft plagiarism there, but hey, it's hard to innovate that area of a shirt. But yeah, I like it a lot, and the colours are great, but I'm not too sure that I don't think this is a volcano t-shirt, even though the colours are very much like lava at the top there. Don't get me wrong, it's brilliant, and a shirt like this puts a club on the map, and it's amazing. Indonesia, one of the rising spots in the world for football shirts. Very quickly, it's become, it's been a few years in the making, hasn't it, really, where Indonesian team shirts have been on people's radars. Certainly some of the ones from last season did draw my attention. Anyway, all that being said, I think we're looking at a low Flames t-shirt. Despite, again, it's incredibly eye-catching. I do like that collar again. And, they've got a nice kind of good sponsor integration. But I just think this kind of, again, it's a bit too... I can't think of another word than literal. And I don't know if I've explained myself at all there, really. But I am being picky. And, of course, when you see... Again, hundreds, thousands of shirts. Dead Horses looks like something AI would create. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I think with it, with a design like this, I think it feels like if you took this idea and the colours, but then worked it into a pattern which would just be a little bit more. I think the idea is excellent, but I feel like we're a couple of steps away from what I would really like to see. Anyway, as is. I mean, again, and I don't want to be too critical, I still think this is a great shirt. And again, wonderful to see a brand and a club put themselves on the map. Well, and a brand put themselves on the map. And this was, again, this has been a brilliant selection of club team names and manufacturers. Kalma, never heard of them, but they've done some great work here. Congrats to them. And I feel like I spent a lot of time criticising that shirt only to rank it pretty highly. But hey, I have to say, some good shirts tonight, and that is probably my favourite that we've seen so far, despite my my criticisms. Quick note on the numbers. Looks like they've literally just got the pattern there and then a cut out from the pattern. That's fine. It does look quite cool. Right, Guinea. So we're back in AFCON. Now, of course, some of the AFCON shirts would have already been released kind of way ahead of the tournament. So we won't get all the AFCON shirts here. In fact, I think we might be missing quite a few of them. But we will have some. And, of course, we come to Guinea and their away shirt from Puma. Now, looking at this one, it does have a very basic feel. And, you know, it's funny, even just like their federation crest there does it simple. You've got the colours there. And, of course, with many African teams playing in similar colour schemes, many African flags, of course, in red, yellow and green, you're looking for points of difference sometimes between some of these teams. This is a very nice shirt, but it's hard to, you know, again, when you look at the plain, the completely plain shorts and socks and the completely plain back, the pattern, not too sure about the kind of gradient on the red there. It's lacking a lot of detail, really. You know, I'm not seeing anything in the way of a back neck detail or jock tag, and those elements, those aspects of a kit can really help elevate a design. Sorry. So it has to look, even though that pattern isn't one I recognise exactly. I don't think this is necessarily a teamwear pattern or a off-the-shelf pattern, but it has that kind of look. So nothing too special from Puma and Guinea. Having said that, I don't think this is an Ice Cube tier shirt. I don't think far from it. I would actually say we're looking at something perhaps in the kind of mid camel tier, and that is no bad thing. Shirts in the camel tier, I've said this before, but just for anyone who might be new, the kind of average line, I would say, is somewhere around the middle of the camel tier. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of solid shirts in this range. We'll stick Guinea there, and we do have their home shirt as well. So before we put Puma on the board, we will check out their home kit. Let's see if this is any better. First impression, largely underwhelming. Nice to see the contrast in the shorts and socks colours, I should say. A very simple look. The pinstripes here, interesting to note the colour. Is that just kind of grey? Or silver? It's fine, and I guess I'd take it over the away, but not by much. Yeah, I'd say as a combo, it's nothing special, and it definitely feels like, again, when you're talking about Puma or any of the big brands like Adidas, Nike, they, given how many teams they work with, of course, many of their contracts are relatively light when it comes to bespoke details or any kind of interesting elements, unique patterns, etc. This definitely has a look of, you know, it's barely above off the shelf, if not something you can get effectively from a catalogue. So, you know, for international teams, sadly, you know, they do often, despite being an international team, get lumped in with somewhat uninspiring kits, and I think that's the case for Guinea here. So Puma, obviously we'll see much better Puma shirts throughout the year, but not a great combo. Nothing, not bad at all, but we want to see more from the German giants. Right, we're back in Japan, this time with J2 League, and Fagiano Okayama. Never heard of this team once again, but Penalty are a brand who are quite familiar to many of us. A brand who have quietly done a lot of work in both Brazil and Japan. They're sort of working away. They've done some good stuff over recent years. This is a reasonable shirt. Interesting kind of pattern in the body of the shirt there, which is a front and back, which is good to see. and don't mind that collar at all. Not as good as the PKSC shirt, but it's kind of on those lines. Nice simple flappy collar, and even though the little bit of green of the sponsor does sort of detract slightly, but the shirt is actually pretty good. I think it's another one where these colours, and whether it's navy and blue, navy and red, or red and blue, this kind of combo is, for me, it's, even though it's one of the more common ones in sport, in football, and maybe that's why I don't like it as much. Even though it's quite common, I'm not. Generally speaking, I tend to not be too excited by it. So it's a solid effort, and I do think Penalty again are a brand who have a lot of potential. Who could easily, I think, without too many changes, rise up in terms of popularity. And they're the kind of brand where I wouldn't mind seeing a bit of them in Europe, for example. So that's I think we'd stick them around there for the Okayama home, and then if we go to their away, so it's good. It's always nice that we can compare both. Some different ideas here. So we've got a different collar style, which I think I'd probably, it's marginally better than the home one for me. And the pattern there, I do like how that kind of goes. Again, it goes on the back, which is a small thing, but that is a significant upgrade over just on the front. And I quite like this. I don't mind how, again, the pattern, you can kind of see there. There's a nice. It's nice to see basically the back of the shirt being respected, and of course the colours of the sponsors. Yeah, they get in the way, but there is an element of that where, whilst it might not necessarily be the best from a design perspective, it would also be a shame to see that completely eliminated. I think. When it comes to some of these leagues, like particularly in Japan, but also South America, I've said this before on the channel. There's a certain charm to having 7-8 sponsors in different colours. There's a sort of otherworldly quality, something which you just simply wouldn't get in many European leagues. And as a collector, somebody who's into shirts, there's actually, for me, there's a certain charm to that. So much so that it would, whilst it would probably be technically the better thing to do to recolour the sponsors, I'd also kind of be a bit sad if it went completely. I actually think I'd put this quite high in the counter tier. I'm going to stick it right here, and that is Penalty. So that will stick them on just behind. We don't want to do that. Just behind Wallon there. Hopefully we get a few more Penalty shirts on the Hot Wall this year, so we can talk a bit more about them. It'd be good to see more of their work. Man, we are really going around the brands. This is without a doubt one of the most diverse days on the Hot Wall we've had. I mean, sure, we've had Kappa and Puma, but we've had some brands who are really, really niche, and who I would not be able to pick out from a crowd necessarily. So good to test the brand knowledge, to stretch our understanding of worldwide brands. Anyway, let's go back to the wall. Who have we got next? We've got Cruz Azul. Oh, there you go. Already hitting the wall. It's only just gone 9 o'clock here in the UK, but back into old habits there with the yawning. But we come to the brand Perma. They're a brand who, again, predominantly working out of Mexico, but have done some good stuff. And if we look at this particular Cruz Azul shirt, I quite like it. Now, in terms of kind of colour, I'm not loving the sort of shade of blue, but it's quite an interesting pattern, and I think I'd quite like that to go all the way, or to be throughout the whole body. The gradient kind of is what it is, but I do kind of think there's something to it. The way it kind of interacts with the side panels there, or continues on the side panel. I don't hate that at all. And the kind of almost like a two-tone blue, the kind of colour of the applications. You can see there. I do enjoy a plastic or TPU crest. It's a small thing, but this sort of texture. I mean, look at that. That's some really nice, some excellent work there. In terms of pattern, that isn't. It's not to everyone's taste. This sort of style of crest, but that is for me. That's one of my preferred approaches, and I do like that they've got different patterns, different textures. Honestly, that's a really nice touch, and that's the kind of quality touch which a lot of brands often miss. Yeah, you can see here. I think this one is definitely low flames material. Color is what it is. Nothing particularly exciting. The little flashes of red I quite like. I think I'd almost want to see a little bit of that red just in the pattern slightly. Certainly not throughout the whole area, but like if I kind of like that contrast, and it'd be interesting to see that maybe just on the back. I don't know, just a little bit of that in that could be in the body, and that pattern could be quite fun. But that's good. That's a really solid effort from Perma for Cruise Azul, and as I say, I think that's worthy of being in our second tier, in the Flames tier. I forget. We've only been streaming for an hour, but I forget the honestly how tiring it is just to be on camera under the lights for a while. I'm out of practice. I need to build up my stamina again. But anyway, sorry, that's beside the point. Oh, there we go. Cruise Azul. You know what? I actually think I would probably put that as my favourite shirt we've seen so far. Only just, but yeah, I think I would take that. And I think in a different colourway, I think I would possibly have that even higher in the Flames tier. But that's the brand Perma. Very, very respectable showing from them. And yet another brand to add to this list. It really has been a tour of niche football shirt manufacturers, and that's great. That's one of the great things about the football shirt world. Doesn't matter whether you're one of the big boys or one of the relatively small outfits. When you've got some of the best shirts in football do come from some of these brands, which are less heralded, and it's great to see. But returning to a big brand and a big team in Japan. Although they are in J2 apparently. I thought they were in J1. But anyway, Yokohama FC. How are they faring with Puma this year? Let's go to their away shirt first. I've not seen this before. I have to say that as an overall look is not really moving the needle. Not helped by the plain back, and I think even just the aesthetics of the sponsor, this kind of fairly kind of bland, generic corporate sort of looking sponsor. I quite like in terms of like a base colour. If this was a bit more off-white, it looks like it almost is, to be fair, but it could just be the photo. There could be some potential, but I have to say, this kind of barcode look, it's fine. I don't mind it as a kind of sort of two-tone white off-white, but it does feel just a little bit too sterile, I think. And again, not to jump the gun, but it's the same pattern as the home, which is fine. But I'd probably say I prefer the away to the home, but not my favourite style from Puma. And it's funny because as a brand, I think particularly in the last couple of years, Puma, they've kept things very simple with their collars, and that's not a bad thing necessarily when you see kind of some of the over-engineered collars that you get in world football, in football shirts. But this is lacking a second gear, really, I think. And again, I would still probably rank it kind of mid to high candle tier. So we're not. I don't think I think we've seen worse. I think, for example, I'd take it over the Guinea shirts. In fact, yeah, no, I would probably have it closer to the Newell's Old Boys there, and we will bump up Puma as a result. But yeah, looking at the home as well. For Yokohama, let's just take a look. Yeah, there is an inside net detail, but yeah, the crest isn't too exciting style-wise. Honestly, I think this one would probably benefit a lot. We talked about embossed patterns and subliminal patterns. This one would benefit from a bit of that to help kind of lift it, honestly. And I do like, generally speaking, barcode shirts do have a lot of potential, but this one, a relatively tame effort from Puma for Yokohama. And if we just stick them on the board, I'd probably put this one slightly below the away. So still very much in the counter tier. We're not. This any shirt in the counter tier. The general rule of that is that it's not a shirt I would look to pick up for the collection unless it was in a big sale or something like that. That's my general kind of thinking. And yeah, I would happily pass this one by on a sales rack in a store. So we'll nudge it just behind the away, and we will also knock Puma down a couple of pixels. But that is Yokohama FC. What else? I feel like we need a real banger to end on, and I think, yeah, let's end on the Tunisia shirt because I do really like that one. We won't do the pre-match shirt for Barca, but we'll come to Universidad Católica from Chile. Another Puma shirt. Now, I must say, as a style, as a base style, this is one of my favourites. It's the Boca Juniors formula of a central band of colour. Honestly, despite the relative simplicity of this one, it's just a personal favourite. When I think about my favourite kind of pattern, this is possibly my favourite in terms of a generic or base style of shirt pattern. And there's something quite funny to me. I feel like I should be bothered about the fact that this is an incredibly narrow crest, but I actually find it quite funny that it creeps over, edges over into those central bands. It almost feels like I don't know, it emphasizes, I think, the unusual shape of that, how tall that is, how narrow that is. All the sponsors are, the back sponsors there in red, but largely recolored, and a very small thing, but I do like that you've got not just the blue but the light blue framing the blue, and of course that idea also seen in the collar. So this one, it's funny, but this is genuinely for me the best shirt I've seen tonight. And again, I'll mention the crest because that to me, it just makes you smile that is so big that it's kind of bled over into the middle. Because I don't know if it's just me, but that crest just looks like hilariously tall and narrow. I like it though. I actually do think, again, I'm not gonna. This is certainly not a Volcano tier shirt, but I actually think, and maybe it's just ticking some of my personal boxes, but I would actually rank this one higher than the Cruz Azul shirt, which is maybe crazy, but an insight into some of my personal preferences. Daredevil says, why is it that some designs stop at the front and don't extend to the back? The biggest reason is that a lot of leagues and competitions stipulate that you need either plain back or largely plain back to accommodate names and numbers, so it's often for legibility concerns. Now, those regulations vary from competition to competition, so it's not always the case. And it is worth saying that a lot of those rules have been relaxed over the years. After the, for example, it was a lot more stringent in some competitions 5-10 years ago, but that is a big reason. However, sometimes I think it is largely just an exercise in kind of, it's a simpler route to go down, and maybe it's cynical of me to say, but I think a lot of the time, it's made, to help accommodate sponsors more and things like that. But you can see, like, for this show, it really is important, and again, many teams do keep. I do recognise. I do like that detail on the back there. Many teams do keep patterns on the back for traditional reasons. So the likes of Inter Milan, home shirts will almost always have, or do have, stripes on the back. Other striped teams don't. Anyway, that's Universidad Católica. I really like that. To be honest, I'm actually going to bump that higher. Seeing that little jock tag detail, that's great. And that is certainly, you know what, screw it, let's put it there. They're all the way up there. I honestly think this is a kind of hidden gem shirt. Now, I don't know their history. I don't know, maybe their shirts look like this every year. But I actually feel like this is the kind of shirt which will fly under the radar and people think, oh, that's just a very simple shirt. But it looks kind of good. And obviously, I've just Googled their name. But a quick glance, a cursory glance, shows that certainly I would argue some of those shirts have been more successful than others. But anyway, this is a successful one. And I do think, again, for all the kind of negatives about Puma I've said tonight, I think that is one of the best ones. We'll skip the Barca pre-match because we're not talking about pre-match shirts for the Hot War. But we've got the Uara Red Diamonds. Now this is a J1 League team. And of course, the Nike template that never seems to die is still just about clinging on for this year. Shame to see just a simple transfer, it looks like, on the crest. That's definitely a downgrade. And even the inside neck detail, the quality could be higher on those. We do have a pattern on the back though, and that's been largely the case for the shirts we've seen today. And a very dynamic kind of cloud, almost a kind of an aggressive look here with the red and black. It looks okay. I think it's kind of the Nike this is certainly one of the better ways to utilize the Nike template when you've got a lot of pattern in. I don't mind this version where the bat wings, as they were sometimes called, are on the front and back like that. That's one of my favorite variations on this Nike range. But I think the quality is that, again, we do consider application quality when we're ranking the shirts. I think that is a bit of a negative. And of course, there's another jock tag detail there, which is interesting. But yeah, I think overall, this is probably, I think we might just about get it onto the Flames tier, but I'm tempted to say high candle tier. Again, it's picky, but I do think the quality of the crest is a big letdown for me, given the size of the team. You know what? We'll stick him in the Flames tier. They've done the pattern on the back, and that, again, though more clubs seem to be doing that, it's not always a given. So we'll stick him there. That is our first Nike shirt of the year, and then we come to the away kit. Now, I have to say, when I look at this, I do much prefer the home, and it almost makes the home look better. This is, I talked about the bat wings, not having them there, I think it's an inferior look of this particular range of Nike shirts. The style of the shirt itself is fine, but and the pattern is on the back again, which is good. But yeah, I think there's a pleasing contrast to the home, whereas the home is much more kind of busy, and this one does have the other other end of the spectrum. But yeah, I would say this one is much more middle candle tier for me. And again, it's kind of funny when I compare this to the home. It does kind of make the home look a bit better. But it's important to say, and I think a general principle with football shirts, naturally as collectors and people, you know, like me or you, if you're watching this, you probably see a lot of football shirts every day. We naturally gravitate to the crazier patterns, the crazier colours, and I think there's something to be said about sometimes less is more. Sometimes a crazy pattern for the sake of a crazy pattern can actually be, I would say, a negative. We almost sometimes have this it's felt a bit like in recent years there's almost a kind of arms race to kind of get the craziest pattern possible. But I do think there's something to be said about a more reserved look, and I think that's where things like technology and details can really come into their own, and I'm hoping that brands really begin to major on that in the coming years, because I think we've basically reached the peak or the apex of crazy patterns. I kind of want to see a return to more technological innovations, material innovations, and that's, I think, where particularly the bigger brands, they can kind of separate themselves from the pack. Because at the moment, again, when it comes to patterns, we're literally, I think we've reached saturation point in the industry as a whole. Nelith says, what do you think of that solid collar on the Nike shirts? I have one and I really like wearing them. They feel nice to wear, if that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, Nelith. And I think what's interesting is I've heard similar comments. I mean, you know, broadly speaking, I would say the community has been quite down on this range of Nike shirts, and I've certainly criticised it in some ways as well, though I do much prefer this particular iteration compared to this one. But it's interesting because I have heard similar things like you've said there, Nelith, in terms of actually they're not necessarily bad to wear. They can be quite comfortable, or they have been comfortable for some people. So and it's funny, isn't it, when you look at, I think another thing when I look at this product shot of the shirt, the collar looks more awkward than it does on the player. It sits a lot better there. It certainly looks a bit less jarring compared to the product shot. So I think there's definitely a conversation to be had about you know, how a shirt doesn't always look that great in terms of in the promo shots, but actually when you see it on a person and how it's meant to be worn, yeah, sometimes it's not so bad. And actually sometimes when you wear a shirt, sometimes, you know, some of my most comfortable shirts are ones which you know, you wouldn't necessarily think were most comfortable, I think, if you just saw it on the release. So it's a very interesting line of conversation there, something we could definitely talk more about. Let's finish. Well, I want to finish on Tunisia, so we've got a final three, and we come to Rapid Vienna, an anniversary shirt here. Now, I believe these are the guys who usually play in green and white, aren't they? Yeah, they are indeed. So, throwing it back to an old colour scheme, and we've seen a few similar shirts, or similar kind of half and half shirts tonight. So this anniversary shirt, it has the classic look. I mentioned the collar, and a bit like the I forget the team now from Peru, was it RBC, the Wallon shirt anyway. Very similar style to that in terms of the collar, but good to see a quote unquote proper collar. And actually that's an anniversary crest, isn't it? So that's really nice. I do like that a lot. That looks really cool. A very, very kind of old school looking crest. Almost looks a bit kind of Soviet or Eastern European there, but I do like that quite a lot. Not sure about the sponsor. I feel like you could probably, I mean, I don't necessarily hate it, but if you do an anniversary shirt anyway, I suppose the Puma logo's there. Yeah, it's fine. Is what it is. I do think that this is pretty nice. Very simple, but that crest alone gives it a strong selling point. And again with the collar we mentioned, This style I do typically prefer to a one button look. Comes in a nice little box. Yeah, that's fine. I think this is probably high counter tier. The crest is pulling a lot of the, it's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Overall, not bad at all. And this is of course another Puma shirt. So I think looking at where we've got Puma there, this is, we'll bump them up a tiny bit. And that is Rapid Vienna. It's always fun to see a club's original colours. I think it's a very small thing, but it's fascinating, And I don't know the story of how they ended up playing in green and white. Whether it was just a rebrand, whether it was when they merged with a team. But it's always fun seeing a team tap into their original colours, and of course many clubs have done that. Most clubs by now have done that in some capacity. When you think about anniversary kits, most clubs have had their 100th anniversary now, etc. But I think it's a fun exercise. I think from a design perspective, if you've got very different colours, if a team had very different colours in the early days, there's so much potential. Sometimes I think, I would argue that clubs and brands could tap into it more. And some clubs do it better than others, I would say. Penultimate kit for tonight, before we sign off, is Dundee United and Araya. Now Araya, a brand who really are doing some good work. I mean, they've got a large market share now, and they kind of sit in this interesting space alongside the likes of Macron, and I think you could probably put Hummel in this list, maybe New Balance to a lesser extent, but a brand who have, again, good market share, but are really making the most of that. And despite having so many clubs, you see the attention to detail when it comes to bespoke patterns and application quality. Now this is, speaking of applications, very simple embroidered details, but the sleeves, or the sleeve pattern here, does the talking, particularly in long sleeves. That's really cool to see that pattern on the sleeves. I will have to comment on the fact it is a blackout shirt, and that trend has kind of come and gone, but at the same time, blackout shirts were popular for a reason, and quite simply, as a style, it is a fairly kind of it's universally loved, I would say, or at least it has a broad appeal. I guess that the street wear, or the kind of casual appeal, is very high, and you can kind of, regardless of a team's kit history, you can kind of get away with a blackout shirt and it being quite popular. But what I will say is, it's not just a run-of-the-mill blackout shirt. I do really like that sleeve pattern, and yeah, honestly, that despite the somewhat cliche approach, having a blackout third kit, I think Araya and Dundee have done a nice job within that theme. Is it enough to go in the Flames tier? I think it's probably a high counter tier, and again, I say that largely because we've seen so many good blackout shirts, and the bar is very high for blackout shirts. The colour scheme by itself, if anything, is more of a hindrance sometimes than a help, because we've seen so many. But we'll stick them there. In fact, let me just trim that file there slightly. So we'll stick them just at the higher end of our third tier, which is the candle tier, and that is Araya and Dundee United. Of course, Dundee typically have a wonderful orange colour scheme. Dundee United, that is, and orange and black, I should say. So the black, it's kind of within their club colours, isn't it? So no bad thing to go with black, even though it is black and yet another blackout kit. But that's Araya, and I do think we'll be seeing a lot more of Araya. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of Araya this year, and probably quite high on the list, I would speculate, because I do think they're a brand worth paying attention to, and I think the quality of their work is largely very good. Just as we wrap up, we're a very small bunch now here at the end of the stream, but I do want to say thank you. And if you're watching this on catch up, maybe you're watching this later in the week, thank you firstly for choosing to watch the stream. And we'll be doing this every Tuesday evening, give or take. Not when there's Champions League matches. I've decided to not do that because there is typically the viewership's a bit down on those weeks. But basically, if you like what you see here and you would like to drop in live, ask questions in the chat like some of the guys have been doing tonight. Tuesday evenings, 8 p.m. British time, GMT, or BST in the summer. 8 p.m. till about 9:30, 10, depending on what we're doing. But thank you if you are watching. And I do want to say, again, if you're watching this live, thank you as well. Your support is very, very appreciated. But now we come to Tunisia. A lot of buzz about this one on social media, and I think the buzz is deserved. Basically, I think, we talked on the home and away show about some of these ideas that Kappa were doing with the iridescent Kappa logo and Tunisia crest, but they've really kind of ramped things up. This is a different pattern, of course, to the home and away, and this is very reminiscent of some of Kappa's work from a few years ago, and I forget exactly which team it was that had to be honest, it wasn't just Kappa, Puma as well. Think of like the Renaissance kit with Italy. It's this kind of idea of intricate subliminal patterns, but I do think this is a great take on that. That would be enough, but you then got this really nice sleeve pattern, and I don't know if it's like a flower, I don't know the background here. I don't know what the significance is, but a really nice cuff pattern. I would love that would go across the full circumference of the sleeve. I don't understand, and this has been a thing for a long time, where you get patterns that don't go around the whole sleeve. It kind of bugs me, and I think Kappa often actually are offenders in that regard. But look at that. I think the shirt honestly looks great, and this looks, it's a step up in quality, I would say, compared to the home and away. I don't think it'll be surprised to hear that this is our first Volcano tier shirt of the year. Now, I think we'll see better shirts. Like, when I look at this, I think there's definitely a few things like this, like the sleeves, that I'd like to improve. I don't know if this is plain on the back. I can't actually tell, but I do think that cuff pattern, it feels like a nice complement with the iridescent logos there. It's great, and I do like that collar style. Yes, it's got one button, but I don't mind that collar at all. I think this is a really nice shirt, and I said this on Twitter, on X. I can't really call it. I still can't call it X, even though that's what it's called. But I said on Twitter that Tunisia have established themselves, I would say, as one of the better teams in international football when it comes to kits. This is not a flash in the pan. They've been doing it for a while now, really, in terms of the quality. And with Kappa, they've produced some great stuff. This is the latest in a long line of good Tunisia shirts from recent years. And I think this third shirt is the best so far. So Kappa, hats off to them. We'll move them up there. Obviously, this is just a very rough average of the shirts we've had, the Tunisia shirts we've ranked today. But that is our first Volcano tier entry. And as you saw with the 2023 list, there aren't many shirts which do get into this. So let me just make a note. What shirt? What date, I should say. So we're on the 12th. Tunisia on the 12th up to Tunisia on the 12th of Jan. So there we go, guys. That was the start of the Hot Wool 2024. Bit of everything. with one Volcano t-shirt, no Ice Cube t-shirts. And I think the highlight, or the headline I should say, of the day is just the sheer diversity of brands. Some really, really niche brands that we've talked about today. Some of these guys may only do, shirts for one or two clubs across world football. But then you've also got the likes of Nike and Puma and Kappa, Raya, who will be doing hundreds of shirts. And hopefully we'll do our best to keep up. It's not an easy job. But I think, I'm optimistic that we'll do a better job than last year. I certainly didn't keep up to date enough, and I never really caught up with the backlog. But I'm hoping we can fill this entire board, and it will look a bit more like the 2022 list that we did, which you may remember was absolutely jam-packed. But as I'm speaking, there's only one viewer, so most people have tuned out. But whoever you are watching, thank you. And of course, again, I will say, as we close, thank you if you are watching this later in the week. And thank you just for being a subscriber or viewer in any way. This channel, what we're doing here, it's a small slice of the internet where we talk about football shirts, but the amount of times I am encouraged by messages of people saying that they're enjoying the videos, or they've enjoyed videos previously, it means a lot. And there's a lot more. This is a lot more than just viewer numbers and subscriber count. It really is a great community to be a part of. Anyway, I'll stop being soppy. On your way out, again, if you're watching this later on, be sure you are subscribed. Do leave a like if you enjoyed this. And don't forget the Patreon. If you want to find out more about that, there's a link in the description. But essentially, if you want to take this love of football shirts and join another little community, a Slack group that we've got there with a range of benefits, monthly giveaways exclusively for patrons, for example, that might be of interest. But I think we'll leave it there. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget that we've got a video coming out very soon here on the channel where I'm going to talk about my NFL and NHL collection. So that should be fun. Something a bit different for fans of other sports. That'll be one for you. But until then, have a very good week. As I say, be sure to tune in for the next video or the next stream. And I'll see you very soon. Take care.